Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Today I am joined by the fantastic ZS Diamanti. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Yeah, just like that. Diamanti, very Italian-like.
Diamanti, perfect. And do you go by ZS?
Zach is fine when we're you know what? It's actually funny. I actually do respond to Z.
Okay.
I also respond to Z because I lived in Canada as well. But so I do respond to all of the forms, but yeah, Zach is fine.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Zach. And you know why? For our lovely viewers, because we've got a few here. We've got Scott Palmer. Thank you so much for joining. He was
Hey,
here early.
woo, woo.
And Tim, hello, Tim, another Canadian author right there.
Yeah. In the same area too.
Yes, yeah, I've met Tim, he's lovely. And there's Bert and Christopher. Thanks so much for stopping in, guys.
What's up?
So, Zach, why don't you go ahead, introduce your books, which I have
Sure.
displayed here, and maybe
Yes,
tell everyone a bit
beautiful,
about them.
beautiful. Yeah, so I'm the writer of the Stone and Sky series. Woo! This is the first book, Stone and Sky. It just came out August 29th, which is so exciting because we're only 4 months in to this thing, and it's been great. Like the reception has been absolutely wonderful. We've won several awards, which has been so cool.
That's
And
amazing.
it's just been really awesome. The TikTok community really likes it, and they think it's pretty, and they want to talk about it. So that's the good stuff. um, so my series is a classic style epic fantasy adventure series, very much like the 80s, 90s kind of fantasies, where it was more about the magic and going on a journey and an adventure, right? So that's very much how Stone and Sky is. And in Stone and Sky, we follow, the first person that we meet is Orin, and he is the lone surviving Griffin guardian of his squadron. All his squadron is dead, killed by wyvern riding orcs. A local huntsman's family finds him. They heal him up and they go on a wild adventure to try and get him home. And while they're doing that, they find out the orcs have a secret weapon that nobody knew about. So it gets pretty crazy. It gets pretty fun. Multi POV. I mean, we got orcs and goblins and trolls and elves and we got elves that ride pegasi. We've got orcs that ride wyverns and humans that ride griffins. And yeah, here's another griffin there. We love the griffins, right? The
Mhm.
Preludes collection. And then yes, of course,
Book 2, I was gonna
orcs
ask.
that will ride wyverns. How about that, right? Stone and Tide coming out. Um, and of course we've got dwarves that ride these things called garvox, which are essentially panthers, these black panthers with these great bat-like wings, and they
Ooh.
have to uh, hunt them down and put them under a spell so that they can actually bond with them. It's really cool. It's really fun.
Oh, neat.
But yes, Stone and Tide comes out February 6th, which is so exciting. And doesn't it look pretty next to it? Like it's gonna look really
Absolutely.
good. It's gonna look so pretty. And I love people are always like, dude, I'm so glad they're the same size. And I'm like, are you
Yes.
serious? I would have been a mess if they weren't the same size.
I'm so glad you feel our pain.
Absolutely. I hate it. I mean, I have so many that mismatched ones and I hate them. I'm like, I want to sell this one and go find a different one.
I find it's always the last book in the series as well, so you spent all this time
Just to mess
collecting
with you.
it,
Yeah.
and then the last one, they're just like, "Oh, we forgot."
Oh, we forgot. I guess you're gonna have to get the whole rebranded one. Oh well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Next
clever.
edition.
Mental note. No, that's terrible.
Oh, yes, we might have to mark that down.
That is sick.
So actually, I wanted to, you were talking about this, and I remembered I wanted to ask you. You have
Yeah.
a very big theme going on there with
Yeah.
creatures of some kind riding another
Mhm.
creature. Where
Yes.
did that come from?
Yeah, so actually the whole idea that for Stone and Sky in the series, it really all started with flying creatures. So I really thought it would be cool to have aerial combat in in some epic fantasy. And I was like, man, I want to see I want to see these, like, this whole squadron of griffins. What's going on, man? I want to see this whole squadron of griffins flying up against this whole squadron of wyvern riding orcs, and of course I don't want to put them up
Mm.
against a dragon because I mean, come on, let's be real. We have to, like, there has to be some rules, right? We have to have
Right.
some rules that make things like even and make it like, okay, maybe we don't know who's going to come out on top, right?
Mm.
And I just was like, man. So I grew up as a kid in the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force, and then I joined the Air Force. So I was around combat planes and uh, for my whole life, right? So
Oh, wow.
always seeing planes, always seeing these really epic, cool military aircraft, and I was like, man, like, how could we, like, incorporate that into, like, a fantasy world?
Mm.
And so that's where it really started. It was like, I want to do all these epic flying creatures, and then now we got to make a story. And
Right.
well, to go on one of those classic epic style adventures, it was like, it would be really easy if we could just get back on his griffin and fly away. Well, we can't do that. So that would be a pretty quick buck. All right. Let's make it so that he loses his entire squadron and he ends
Mm.
up having to team up with people that he doesn't know, and very found family vibes, and go on this epic quest to get home and get back into the fight. Right. So
Yes. I love it, as found family is my favorite trope,
yeah,
and it's been that for a long time. I love how authors can take, individuals and make them a family throughout an entire
totally.
epic journey that sometimes is very dark and sometimes is really cozy.
Right.
So, it
Yeah.
it can be any extreme, but there's found family in so many things.
Oh, yeah, we were talking so I was on a panel at a convention, last week or the week before, I can't remember, but we were kinda talking about the aspects of our person. Like, we all have these
Mm,
different aspects, and there's fear and there's all these different emotions, but then we kind of put them into different characters. Like, this character's gonna get a lot of extra of this, right? And this character's
right.
gonna get a lot of extra of that. But the reason that all these characters coming together is so beautiful for us as readers is that we can see ourselves and parts of
Mm,
ourselves in all these different characters, and we love seeing them all come together, and we're hopeful that that can happen inside of us too, and
yeah.
we can overcome great things, right? So
Yes.
it's such a cool concept.
I completely agree, and I wanna add to that too because you may have already found your found family, and you just want to relive that experience, right?
Totally,
Because it's such a
exactly.
beautiful experience to have, to be able to go out into the world because it's big and it's scary and, not so nice things happen, but to
Yeah,
find your people and they become so much a part of your life, and they really do become family. It's just that feeling is beautiful. Wanna
it is,
re-experience it every
and you want
time.
it, yeah, you want more of it, right? That's what you
Yes.
want. That's why we go to books, so we can experience it again and again, right?
Exactly, we reread and we go back to these same kind of stories, I love it. So, before we go any further, I just wanna say a huge congratulations on your Kickstarter.
Thank you,
That
yeah.
was backed in 9 hours,
9
right?
hours, yeah, yeah, it's still going, it's still live right now.
Okay, so folks,
I
if you have not backed it, and
yeah,
check the
it's
description.
apparently it's still live for another 18 or 19 days. I did not expect it to go as well as it did, to be honest. So,
That's
uh
amazing, though.
and I really credit that to all the people who went out and shared it and, like, really gave me all sorts of love and hype, and were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys got to check this out. You guys got to check out this Kickstarter, etc., etc." I really credit it all to everybody else because I definitely did not know that many people would be interested in this Kickstarter. I was not expecting that. And of course, a lot of people say that an audiobook Kickstarter, they worry about the audiobook Kickstarters. Not all of them
Yeah.
have done well in the past. And I think we just made some really good offers and put some really good things into it that made
Mhm.
it attractive for people. And so right now, I mean, we passed the first stretch goal overnight. I woke up and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to now I've gotta put in a like, a announcement, "Oh my gosh, we crossed the finish line, but we also crossed the we also crossed the first stretch goal. Okay, let me get the next stretch goal ready." I was not expecting that, right? "What's
That's
up, Brian?"
amazing.
And it was so funny because it was like, "Okay, well, now, the next stretch goal is getting Stone and Tide, uh,
Yes.
produced as an audiobook too," which is really cool because I was not expecting that to be the case. Like I didn't expect us to get that far that fast.
Yeah.
And now we've got the chance to throw the audiobook of Stone and Tide in with all the bundle, with all the different bundle reward tiers. And it's like, what? This is crazy. Like, this is so cool. I am thrilled and so grateful that the Kickstarter has done what it's done. Really, truly.
Well, and there's something to be said for both sides because you said, you're so grateful for everyone sharing, and that's huge. It takes a village to do anything, right?
Totally.
Takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a village to get out
Mhm.
there in any kind of passion project you're doing or career, all of it. But I think there's also a lot to be said for hard work, which you've put in because
Totally
you
agree.
do so much marketing. You have how many social media accounts that you post to?
A lot.
And you keep up with, right? You are constantly pumping out all of this creative format to market your books as well, which
I
should be
try.
commended.
I do try, and keeping up, I wouldn't say I keep up, but I try. That's for sure. Sometimes I'll go a couple of days, and then I'm like, "Oh, I forgot I had all these messages. I better go
Oh,
check 'em. My bad." Like, I feel terrible about that, but
you're
I gotta figure out a balance. We'll see how it goes.
well, if you think of it in this term, typical, like, work week is, 5 days a week. You need that weekend to just live
Hmm.
your life, do your own thing, take a break, and then come back on Monday.
I keep hearing some people tell me that, and I think I should listen. You're absolutely right.
One day you'll
One of
get
these
there.
days, one of these days. Maybe when this trilogy's done, we'll see.
Okay. Maybe, and then there's gonna be another trilogy.
You got a fair point. I mean, there's always another trilogy.
So your, audiobook narrator is Peter Leopard, correct?
Yes, uh-huh.
I would love to know how that connection came to be.
Oh, man, Peter is he is just absolutely awesome. Let me first say, if you guys haven't heard the samples that we've got up on the Kickstarter, and I've posted them in a couple of different places, YouTube and all that stuff, but, uh Peter is incredible. Let me just say that. I found him actually on, let's see, final stretch goal should be a real Griffin. Yeah, sure. I mean,
You
let's shoot for the moon. 100K maybe? Let's go for
you give Thiago Abdallah a run for his money there.
that. Yeah, I'll have to really up the ante so we can figure out the genetics of that. But Oh man. I mean, Peter is great, right? He is absolutely so talented. I actually found him on ACX. So, I was doing all of the back work, doing all the research, trying to figure out how to find the right narrator. We sent sample pages to several narrators at several different price tiers,
Mm,
even some in the dream tier where we're like, I don't know if we're going to be able to afford anybody in this one. I mean,
right.
we did like all the tiers, and we're like, hey, let's find a couple of guys that have really good quality, sounding quality, and let's throw it over to them, give them a try, see what happens. Actually, Peter was one of our wild card guys. I was like, he didn't have a whole lot of samples, and I was getting this vibe about him, and I was like,
Mm.
I'm gonna throw it to him. I wanna throw it to him. And actually, my wife, she was kind of like, I don't know if he's gonna be right. Okay, we get samples back, and we're going through everybody's samples. I kind of waited until we got everybody's samples so we could just kind of go through them all in one day. And he was like the third or fourth one in the list, and we started listening to. I mean, 1 minute in, my wife was like, he's your guy. He's your guy. He's your guy. And I was like, stop it. Stop it. He's not we don't know that. We gotta give everybody a fair shot, right? We gotta go through everybody's. We're gonna And then I kept listening, and I was like, "Oh, man, he's pretty good. He's pretty good." But, like, "No, no, no. Okay, settle down, we're gonna wait for him." And then what happened is, one of the characters in Stone and Sky, one of the main POV characters, he's an orc, and his name is Karnak, and when he started reading the sample page with Karnak on it, and I heard that orc voice come out, and it was the one that I heard in my head while I was writing it. I was like, "Oh, that's my guy." I was like, "We gotta listen to everybody else, but in my heart, I know that's my guy." And so I
I love that
actually
your wife called it first after
did.
being skeptical.
I know, right? I was like, "You were the one that was gonna," but what are you gonna do? It was too funny too because, he was even engaging me in like "Hey, I see that you're doing this and this with these characters. What are you kind of feeling like? What are you kind of hearing in your mind with these orcs? And what are you kind of hearing in your
Mm.
mind with the dwarves? And what are you kind of hearing?" And I was like, "Oh man, okay, this guy's yeah, all right. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm like." And dude totally nailed it. I mean, crushed it. And since we've had an absolute blast because we're working on this together. I'm sending him books and him and his and all the kids' books, and we're having virtual coffees and chatting it up and just enjoying each other and enjoying the process and going on this journey together. And it has been a match made in heaven. Truly, it's so awesome.
That's fantastic to hear. It's great when an author and an audiobook narrator can click so well and everything just falls into place after the fact
Yeah,
because that's what really gives a great performance too in the end. Narrators, they are phenomenal at their job, but if you're really not clicking with the author, if you're really
totally.
having a hard time and vice versa, it might not turn out as good as it could have. That would be
Yeah,
my kind of
totally.
expectation on it, but,
Yeah,
so my big thing when I'm listening to audiobooks is I
yeah.
love hearing different character voices.
Oh, me too. It's
Does Peter give
oh,
that?
it's so glorious.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
so good. It's gonna be so much fun. Like, we're talking classic style epic fantasy adventure. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. It's gonna be glorious. That's all I can say.
I love it, I love
Oh,
it.
man.
So, are there you said there's multiple characters, is it multi-POV?
Totally, yeah. So,
Excellent.
we really have, uh, 3 to 4 POVs that really kind of show up in the first book that we really follow. You got, Orin and, he loses his squadron, and then we kind of follow him and his journey, right? Well, he kinda
Mm,
splits off with another character who actually has to go off and do some other things during that, and so we follow him as well. And then we follow Karnak, who's really important. He's on seemingly the enemy side, right? So
right.
um, we've got him over there, and then we've actually got the King of Whitestone, and the King of Whitestone is going through some really rough stuff. He just became king. His father dies in the second chapter, right? And he becomes the king of
Mm,
Whitestone, and Whitestone is kind of where the Griffin Guard is. So we kind of follow that as well. And so, but everybody kind of comes together
mm.
as the story progresses. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a hard part for me, learning how to write novels rather than short stories and short fiction, right? Because
Right.
I mean, that's a different thing. It's a 1-2 punch, like let's go and throw the twist in, and boom, we can drop it like that. Drop the mic and walk away.
Move
But
on to the next one.
yeah, totally. Right, right. But man, with the novel, it was like, oh, okay, we can kind of do that in all the chapters, but then but everything has to come to like I gotta organize myself a little bit differently and make sure everybody gets there at the same time. So that was a really interesting part of the process for the first book for me. Now I mean, for the next two, it was like, oh, we're gonna go ahead and outline this and this and this and this and this
Right,
and
you
this,
kinda got your
and let's go.
stride and it was
Yeah,
super easy after.
totally.
That's great to hear because sometimes I hear that the next 2 books are harder. Book 1 is super easy because you're just laying out things, and then book 2 and book 3, you realize you set up things that you now need to connect, and
Oh,
you did
totally.
all these things that you didn't track, and now you need to go back, so and
Yes.
even small things, right? I think there was one
Yeah.
author saying they forgot the eye color
Sure.
of their
All
character,
the
and they had to
time.
go
I'm
back.
forgetting things all the time. I I just finished the first round of edits for the
Mm.
third book, and I just sent it off for the second round of edits. But this particular copy of Stone and Sky is a little bit beat up on the edges because it sat on my desk, so I could flip through it every once in a while as I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to land this, but I gotta remember exactly what happened here. So let me just like double check, reread this,
Get the
and
sticky notes out.
yeah, because you want to bring it all the way back around at the end of the trilogy. And it was really kind of fun to kind of revisit some of those things that I was like, oh man, how did I forget that in only a few months? Like how does that work?
Yeah, you know what? Everything ends up blurring together, especially
Mhm.
when you have so many side projects going on, other things you're writing.
No doubt.
Scott, thank you so much, dude. I don't know about prose. Zach
Rose,
probably is, but
we'll take it. We'll take it. Take the
Uh,
win, Kay. We're gonna take the
all right.
win.
All right, thank you. So we're going on in your writing, so let's just dive right in.
Oh, sure. Here we
What
go.
we talked about the creatures sparking that passion for this story, but what sparked your passion to write?
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I tell this story often because it is really kind of it's cute and humorous. But when I was a kid, I didn't have glasses and I couldn't read
Oh.
well at all. I would end up reading the same line over and over and over because my eyes just couldn't kind of get to the next line, and so I hated reading. I thought I was
Mhm.
dumb. I thought I couldn't do any. One day, a teacher put a copy of The Hobbit into my hands and I could not stop reading this book. And I just kept reading the same line over and over until it got to the next line.
Oh.
And I just kept reading this book until I got all the way through it, painstakingly, of course. But I loved it. I was like this adventure, this joy, this crazy wild magic. This is wonderful. I wanted more of it. So I wrote my first story about maybe a week later or so, called The Flobbit. Very original, I know. Not
That's
pro-
so endearing, though.
Probably not, probably not trademarked, I'm sure, but whatever. It was terrible. It was all about a little monkey creature that went on an epic adventure, but it was a thing.
That's that's discovery. That's how
Yeah, sparked something
explore.
in me at that point. And
Yeah.
I was always a visual artist, so I
Okay.
was always drawing and doing comics and other things like that. But then I went to Afghanistan while I was in the military, and I came back. And when you go to places like that, you come back different.
Mm.
And my normal mode of expression, my normal artistic expression through drawing and through music, it wasn't really cutting it. And so I had to kind of explore a different avenue. And so I started writing, and I started writing short stories, started writing sci-fi and horror short stories, really, exploring some of those creepy, dark edges, which publishers wanted to buy. People wanted to buy them. And I was like, wait, maybe I could do this. Maybe there's something to this, right? And
Yeah.
so I was writing all sorts of stories and literary nonfiction essays and all sorts of stuff. I even published a poem, right? Like I was like, wow, I'm a poet, and I didn't even know I was rhyming those words, right? Like I, you know, I was like, wow, okay, this mode of expression is really neat for me, and it fills me and
Mhm.
it fulfills me. And this is really cool. I think this might be something I could do. And I was like, you know what? I want to try it. I've always loved classic style fantasies. It's
Mhm.
welled up in me. I want to try. I'm going for this. I'm going to do it. And so I wrote Stone and Sky.
I love that your passion for it really started with The Hobbit. For me, that's like my comfort read. I will
Sounds
reread that
hilarious.
every year if I can. So I completely understand the passion behind it, but I love that it started with The Hobbit, and now you've
Yeah.
ended up in your own fantasy world and building from that initial passion.
Yeah, I mean,
And
The Hobbit is glorious, let's be real.
it is.
We're listening to the audiobook right now with the with the kids on the way to school, and Andy Serkis is insanely cool. He is so good, but that's a
Yes,
whole other
agreed. And I love this comment too from Scott. Every single story Z tells is the most wholesome thing. You I love it.
Thanks, Scott. I love that
So,
guy. He's
this is a trilogy, right?
Yes,
A
this one is a
trilogy.
trilogy, and it's almost
Okay.
done, and
It's
it's
almost
almost
there.
done. Yeah,
You
the
have
3rd book comes out in, June, on June 4th.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's you know what? We're January, but June's gonna be tomorrow by
and
how
it's
fast
no
time
joke, you're
goes.
not even as long as it took me to pack boxes today, like, it feels like it's going to be tomorrow.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
man.
So, I wanna dive in a little bit with your writing
Yeah,
and your process, and there's a few questions I have, and I'm gonna try and break them down as, seamlessly as I can.
sure.
So, when you sit down to write,
Mhm.
what's your process? Do you outline? Do you discovery write? Do you have an entire catalog of everything you want to happen? Or are you the kind of person who needs to talk it out? Do you need to meet up with a buddy and get it out of your system?
Oh, yeah, I definitely don't talk it out. I wish I was as eloquent in my speech as I was at putting words to the page. Although, in fairness, I double up words like crazy. I have this weird quirk that while I'm writing, sometimes I'll stutter and
Oh,
write
okay.
a word twice, and I'm like, "What? How'd that happen?" It happens all the time. There's so many. I just one of the biggest things that I saw in these last round of edits was that exactly. So I was like, "What? Why does that happen? I don't get." It."
Hopefully,
But
they'd be easier to spot.
yeah, you'd think. I don't know. It's goofy, but whatever. Um, so I actually do a lot of so with the first book, it was just we're going for it because I
Mm,
was a short story writer, right? So like
right.
I knew where we needed to go for the first book. I knew where we were going to end up, and I was just going to go for it, just like I do with any short story. I know where we got to end the short story
Mhm.
because I know the punch at the end, but we're just going to go for it and see how we get there. However, as I was getting through the book, I was like, okay, I really need to organize this because like I got all these different characters and they
Mm,
all got like everything has to come together in this book. So I really started kind of outlining each chapter, right? So
yes.
it wasn't going fully in depth, but more of a where do these characters need to be at the end of this chapter? So which characters are in this chapter and what step do they need to be at the end of this chapter
Okay.
is kind of what happened. And then it was like, okay, and then we'll see them in 4 more chapters because we got these guys, and these guys in these chapters, right?
Mm,
And so I kind of got this cyclical pattern going in the writing, which apparently worked gangbusters for pacing, which I was like,
that's
cool.
great.
Hey, happy accidents, right? That's a happy treat, right? Like,
Yeah.
woohoo. And so learning that during the first book, learning that during Stone and Sky, with Stone
Mm,
and Tide, I started that way. I was like, okay, so now I know that when I go into this book, I know where we got to end, like at the very end of the book, but now I need to figure out where we're going to end for each chapter and how I
mm.
know kind of where people are going to go and how we're going to end up going that way. But then once the outline is like, okay, this chapter is about these characters and they got to be pseudo around this spot by the end of that chapter, after that, it's like I just go for it. Every chapter is like, okay, where were we on the last chapter? All right, what's going to happen next? Let's go, right?
Right.
And so it is very much an outlining and total discovery as we go.
I love it though, and do you I might have missed this, but, do you write one character's POV at a time and then move to the next one, or do you do them in sequence of each other so that 1, 2, 3, 4?
I totally do it in sequence of each other. So like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Gosh.
because I like to end if I can.
Hmm.
I don't know why. It's there's that little part of me that goes, if I can say something or have a character say something at the very end of this one that leads into like a whoa, what is that for the next time? But then I
Mm.
make you like, but then I make you, like, wait for 3 chapters. I think
How
that's
dare
hilarious. I do it to myself, though. I do it to myself in the process of it, and then I'll throw, like, a little nugget in, like, where they'll mention something, and then the very next page is a different chapter with different
Okay.
characters, but the first sentence has something that kinda,
Ah, you're one
could
of
give
those
you a little
authors.
clever, clue as to what's going on.
I love it, I love it. You're the kind of author who destroys all my evening plans and my sleeping.
Well, that's the idea, right? No.
You know, it is. You want people to not be able to put the book down, right? That's the whole
You want it
goal.
unputdownable, right? That's
Oh, I love it. Okay, and on a similar note, since
Yeah.
we're there, I actually have a question from Andrew D. Meredith for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So he
I
would
love
like
that
to
guy, by the
know,
way.
fantastic, pillar of the community, honestly. He wants to know, how do you go about coming up with a character? What's the process from concept to page?
Oh, man, I'm gonna be honest. So, most of the time when I come up with a character, it happens in the moment as I'm
Oh,
going. And I go, "Oh, whoa. Okay, so they're gonna run into this character, and who is this character?" And then all of a sudden, I'll start kinda coming up with all this little backstory and, like, what is this character like, and who is he, and what is his life like, and what does he have a family? What does he do for work? What does he do for this, and why is he like this? What and it's all discovery. I starting book 2, I started with an all new character going into book 2. An all new character that wasn't even in book 1, right? And
yeah.
it's because I got this really wonderful idea to go across the sea in the second book, right? And I was like, "Oh
Mm.
yeah, that'd be great." But then I remembered I had to draw another map. And and I was like, "Oh, what was I thinking? You're a genius, you madman." But I started out with a brand new character, and so one of my favorite things is to just throw a brand new character into the craziest thing I can think of, like, what would be happening for this character?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird, I don't know why.
This Well, you truly see someone in high stress
Yeah,
situations, right?
right.
So it
Well,
makes
'cause then
sense.
you really see who they are right off the bat, like,
Mhm.
"Who is this guy?" Right? And, I do it a little bit with villains a little differently because I throw them in the high stress, uh, scenario, but maybe they're not doing a good thing. Maybe they are the
Right.
ones causing the high stress scenario,
Ooh.
which is really fun too. So, I
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
characters
just had a
really
thought of
kinda yeah, they kinda come up as I go. I
right.
truly.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had that thought of like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to be in that character's head."
Right, so I come up with characters because of plot is
Right.
how it happens. So, I'm like, I don't but I could come up with all these brilliant characters, I'm sure, if I tried, but I don't need them. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, when I run into him, I'm like, okay, here's our halfling wagoner. He is so talkative. He's like the most wonderful and nice and kind guy you ever meet. He'll share his pipe with you. He'll share his wife's, biscuits with you. Like he's so nice. But man, can this guy talk? And now one of our characters has to sit up front with him and and listen to him the entire way. And he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And you just I come up with these characters in the moment in that scenario.
Mm.
Okay, what is that character going to be like? Well, what would be funny or what would cause us?
Right.
What would be fun is what it really comes down to, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the roller coaster, right? We wanna have fun. Okay, yeah, this evil maniac is a bad guy, and man, we might get a little scared or worried for our people, but just like the roller coaster, you scared and it's all designed for fun, right?
Right. Yeah, you wanna be entertained, you wanna entertain well, you wanna be entertained as well while you're writing it, right?
Agreed.
You don't wanna write something that you're not loving. That's a
Totally.
huge part of it. And, so we actually have a question here as well from
Oh, nice.
Bert. How much emotional damage is there in your books? Coming in
Uh,
strong.
coming in strong. How much emotional damage is there? I would say there is there's enough. There are tears. There are tears. But I do it in a way that, I don't want to I don't wanna destroy people. I don't want it to be I don't
Mm,
want grimdark. I don't want, there's destruction and devastation, and there's no hope at the end of the day. Uh,
mm,
in my books, it's like, yeah, people die, or yeah, like bad things happen. But at the end of the day, I want to remind everybody that, okay, yeah, we go through hard stuff, but there's still hope. And
mhm.
so, yeah, there's emotional damage. Let's say tears. Um, Lots of tears. I've gotten lots of tears. I've gotten a few mean messages
Oh,
about
no.
a couple of particular things that well, it did what it was supposed to do, I guess. It
Yep.
pierced you just enough and gave you some gave you a little bit of tears, sure.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, like you said, it did its job. And
I
hopefully
try
the
not
readers
to
were
leave
okay.
you, like, I try not to leave you with emotional damage. Sure, I try
Right.
yeah, you'll feel some things, but I try not to leave you there.
Right. Well, that's something.
Right, right.
So, at the end of the day, you wanted this to take people on an adventure,
Yeah,
explore some themes and concepts and maybe some harder topics, while
sure.
still
Yeah.
giving them some fun and some hope at the end of the day, and a few tears and,
A
you
few.
know, maybe a couple harsh messages to you. Um, in terms of, the themes that you wanted to explore, was there one in particular that really stood out aside from found family? Because we
Yeah,
talked
totally.
about that already. Is there another one that really you wanted to write about, to explore, to dive into?
Yeah, so, especially in Stone and Sky, there was in Stone and Sky, there's a major theme of, coming together and overcoming differences and, overcoming division, and this misconceptions, right, of other people's, and really coming together with hope for a better future. Stone and Sky really got written while we are, especially in North America, especially in the United States, there's been a lot of division over the last few years, and there was a lot of that going on. And so there was just this really heartbreaking thing, like, you know, maybe if we loved each other better, or if we knew each other better, or if we were just kinder to each other, maybe if more people were just kind in general, um, maybe we could get past some of this stuff. And I wanted to say, like, hey, there's hope. There is hope for a better future if we can dream about this better future together. And so that was a huge theme in Stone and Sky.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. There's often the saying, "Kindness costs nothing."
Right.
And while that is true, some days it does cost something.
That's
If
true.
you're in a really hard place, if you're having a rough day too, it might
Sometimes.
cost you a little bit to be kind, and that's what makes
Yeah.
it hard in some cases. It's that cost, but it's worth the cost
Right.
in that situation, I
Right.
think.
It's worth it to work together and try to come up with a solution for a better future together, right? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, and I'm gonna go off topic here because you mentioned in your about you that
Yeah.
you're also a Trekkie.
Yeah, yes, yes, I am. What's up? You
Yes.
guys can't see it. I don't know if you can see it. There is a tribble in this dark
Oh.
corner right here somewhere, and actually all the books going that way up on that shelf, and then there's another shelf next to it that all in Star Trek books.
Oh, I love it, I love it. So it sounds like you pull a lot of themes in similar to the utopia that's depicted in
Sure,
Star
you
Trek
want
in that
right.
aspect,
You hope for that,
right?
right?
Yeah, you want that, it takes some work because it took them work in that
Totally.
world as well. But I love it because 'cause I'm also a Trekkie, so I had to
Yeah, let's go.
had to
Which one's
ask.
your favorite?
I'm my I think my favorite is Picard. I
Oh,
do love
really?
Picard.
It was pretty fun.
I struggled with the new shows that they
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
I didn't quite like them, but
yeah.
Janeway would be my 2nd.
Oh, Janeway's great. I
Yeah.
really loved, Deep Space Nine. Oh, just the storyline,
Okay.
so good, so good. But
Yeah.
Janeway's the bomb.
Oh,
She's the bomb.
So we actually have another question. We have Isaac Hill saying,
What's up, Isaac?
do you ever get emotional when you are writing certain
Oh,
scenes?" Kinda coming back
yes.
to that topic.
Definitely, bro. Yes, absolutely, I get emotional. I just wrapped up the first draft with several drafts before the manuscript got passed on for editing. I just wrapped up the third book, and it was so emotional for me. I mean, I would have to walk away from the book and I just need to take a break. I need to
Yeah.
step away. I need to go just pace around my room for a minute or whatever. And, I'd go upstairs. My wife would be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like,
Oh,
cause I got like tears and like I've been wiping my eyes and stuff. I'm like, "Shut
no.
up. I don't want to talk about it." Right. Like,
Digging
I
out the ice cream from the
totally.
freezer.
It totally got emotional. And you know what? It's funny because I know that some of those really emotional moments for me, I know those are powerful, because those they pierced me as a human being, and I know that it will pierce other people as human beings. Uh,
Mm.
my wife, she read it and she sends me a picture, texts me a picture one day while she's reading it. Just her face is red and the
Oh,
teared up and
no.
everything else. And the message said, "You jerk." And
Oh, no.
I was like, "Oh, she got to that part. Okay, got it, got it, got it."
Not even
Yeah,
from your wife. Wow.
right. Yeah, so I get mean messages from my wife as well when she reads it. But yes,
Um,
I totally get emotional writing scenes all the time,
yeah.
especially if they're things that, uh, you know, remind me of moments that I have, as a father, right? If there's a moment in the book between a father and a son, and
Yeah.
there's these really deep treasure moments, these human moments,
Mm.
even if the characters aren't necessarily humans, right? And they're just
Yes.
deeply human moments that totally get me all emotional and teary-eyed. There's a lot of dust in my office, that's all I'm gonna
Oh,
say.
that's yes. Yes, we'll go with that. Oh, I love it, and Anita is here. Hello, Anita. Always right on time. That's the wizard's, saying,
That's
isn't it?
right. The
And
wizard is
Bo
never
here
late.
with that's right. Bo here, would like to know, Zach, which book do you find the hardest to write
Mm.
first, middle or the last book in the series?
Yeah, so it definitely, they all have their challenges. So the first one was difficult because it was my first full-length novel, and so
Mm,
I had to kind of figure out my process and what it would be like, what it was for me to write a full-length novel, right? So there was a
yeah.
learning curve there, right? And then the second book, I really felt very confident, like, okay, now we're cruising along, right? We get how this goes. But the third book was really difficult, a lot more difficult than I expected. Not necessarily because of going back and trying to wrap up things, tying off loose ends, and you know doing callbacks to the first and second book and even the preludes collection, right? Doing all these wonderful little Easter eggs and things. That was great. That was so much fun. The difficulty, I think, was for me was that I was essentially wrapping up a season or an era for myself, because I didn't write books in between each book, right? So there wasn't like, hey, trilogy book and then standalone whatever book,
Mm,
and then trilogy book and then standalone whatever book, right? It was one right after the other, and it has been a hard charge, for me since the beginning of last year, right? So for this last year, it has been a hard charge, and so this book was the third book coming out in June was rather difficult for me because I was saying goodbye to a lot of things, and there were a lot of things I still wanted to say, but also I recognize, hey, I can't say everything in this book. I have to, there's going to be other books. That's fine. We can get to some of those things in different books. And I was saying goodbye to characters, and I'm saying goodbye to this like era, this season of my life. And there were days where I was like, I don't want to write it. Like I don't want to. Like I don't want to. There was this intention. I didn't wanna finish it, which
Mm.
was weird and definitely a different, um, kind of difficulty to overcome.
I completely understand that feeling because 'cause I'm the same with reading series. There are
Yeah,
quite a
sure.
few where I've got, like, the last book in the trilogy left to read, and I'm just like, "No, if I
I
finish it, it's
can't do
over."
it. I don't wanna do it. I can't do it. Right, you're emotionally invested and you've
Yeah.
lived in this space, right? And that's the great thing about books is you can live all these different lives uh, and still go to bed, right? And
Yes.
still go to your bed. But you get to live all these different lives and get to experience all these different adventures, and it I really characters become friends in a way, and it is so difficult to have to say goodbye and kinda change course, right? And really
Mhm.
shift that in your mind and your heart as you're going through. So that was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Now that I've done it, I'm like, okay, maybe I could be a little more cutthroat next time. I don't know, but we'll see, right? Like I have to see how it goes.
It's all a process, and
Right.
I think
Totally.
it's best to just experience it and see how it goes.
Agreed, agreed. Because when I'm going on this adventure, when I'm writing this, I'm going on this adventure. Like,
Yeah.
I am discovering these things as we go too.
So, I'm just gonna pop this up quick. Hello, Rob.
"Hey, man."
And, so I kinda wanna go back to something you talked about earlier, which was the writing difference between the short stories and a
Totally.
series.
It's a big
Um,
difference.
what I would love to know is what did you learn about yourself as a writer with those 2 being so different from one another?
Yeah, I learned so much. I mean, a ridiculous amount. I learned that I needed better organization for myself.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
huge. I always kinda knew that organization was never my forte. I have
Mm.
this thing, this is called my mind list, right here.
Okay.
It is kinda just always with me right here, my mind list,
Mm.
and I have people who tell me I need to write it down, and they are correct. But so I have always known that organization hasn't always been my strong suit.
Okay.
The go get it, oh, that's my strong suit. I'll go get it. Let's go. Let's figure it
Okay.
out and go get it. But, uh, with short stories, that works wonders. That works
Mm.
wonders, gangbusters, because you're like, "Hey, let's go get it." I can knock out a 3,000 word short story like that, boom, 1-2
Dang.
punch, bam, we're done. We can knock one of those out in a day and edit it a few days later and throw it off for edits, a couple days after that,
Yeah.
whatever. But I had to really learn, like, a crazy amount of patience to be patient with myself and recognize that I didn't know everything as I was going,
Mm.
and that's a difficult thing for me too because I like to do things right, and so I try to do a lot of research beforehand to do it,
Right.
and so going through the process of writing a full-length novel, you're like, "Hey, I can have these 1-2 punches in the book, but, like, in these moments, in these chapters, but we're doing something greater here. We're doing
Mm.
something way bigger here. We're building something wild and wonderful." And honestly, what it taught me was I can write books.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
To be frank, I wasn't sure I could. I was like, I love the idea that I could. I love the idea,
Mm.
and I figured out all this short story stuff, but can I do that? I didn't know, and really, I learned that I could, and that was really exciting.
I love too that you mentioned that you realized you didn't know everything.
Totally.
That's huge. That's a huge, it's a I don't wanna say a skill, but it's huge in the sense of being so self-aware
Totally.
and allowing yourself to acknowledge that and move on and learn what you need to know and do what you
That's
need
it.
to do, because a lot of times we go into these projects thinking, "I know enough to do this perfectly,"
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Or close
Yeah,
to perfect, right? But my
right.
end result is gonna be easy, it's gonna come quick, it's not gonna be a problem, and then we go to do these things and we don't get the result we want.
That's it.
We, struggle through the process, and then we're left banging our head on a
Yeah,
wall, wondering what's wrong, and a lot of the times
totally.
it's that recognition that's holding people back.
Yeah, I mean, being self-aware about the fact that you don't know everything is
Mm,
so important because if you don't if you don't really recognize that, you're really gonna wind up in one of 2 camps, right? You're either going to go into it thinking you know everything, nothing's gonna be perfect, and you're gonna be angry, you're gonna be bitter, you're gonna beat yourself up, you're gonna be mad, like, you're gonna feel all these negative tensions, right?
yeah,
That you're gonna be sad. It's gonna suck. Or you're gonna be in the other camp where you, think you need to learn everything and know everything before you do anything because you wanna be perfect. It has to be perfect, so I gotta go and do it. I gotta go learn everything, and then you never actually start.
yeah.
You never actually do the thing. You never actually go on the journey and write the book.
Yes. It's the you end up, reading about how to write, and then you never moving
Totally.
forward with the actual last step, which is write.
Hello. Weird how that works.
Yeah. So I always like asking this question because it's fun for me. It's probably a bit torturous for authors, so I apologize. But did you have a, favorite character that you loved writing? Was there one that was really challenging? Was there one that you just kinda don't really like?
Yes, to all of the above.
Okay.
Um, so I have these characters in the Stone and Sky series, named Cole and Aziel, and Cole is a dwarf, and Aziel is a deep gnome, and he's this bald deep gnome with these epic rune tattoos, and he can use magic. And one of the cool things about Aziel is that he is actually mute. And Cole and Aziel, they are business partners. They've been, running a boat up and down the river. They transport goods and all sorts of stuff, right? Well,
Okay.
when I came up with these characters, I immediately fell in love with these guys. I was like, these guys are the best. These guys are so much fun. These guys are so cool. Let's roll with these guys. And I was like, they're going on the adventure now. Let's go. Right. And so they kind of got tagged on and they went on the adventure too. And they ended up making huge impacts in the rest of the series. Right. And, and I love them. They're so much fun, and they add so much, uh, you know, character dynamics and fun and lighthearted moments and wisdom moments, and they're so rich, right? And they were
Mm,
so much fun to play with. And then there are characters that you're like, "Ah, bro, like, I don't like you. You're such a jerk." But then you also need characters like that because
mhm,
you need characters that if you don't like them, other people are probably not gonna like them, which allows you to use them as a tool in no pun intended, but use them as a tool in the rest of the story, right? To accomplish things that need to be said,
mm.
through different circumstances. I won't go too deep into that character, but you probably will figure out who it is.
Okay.
If you,
Alright, challenge accepted.
oh man, and then there were characters that were great, but man, they were hard to write. Totally. Um,
Okay.
there are sometimes you give a character ticks and you really give them a really rich deep backstory, but then you kind of have to like really follow that. Like you have to be really careful. I have you have to make sure that they're speaking the way that they speak, right? And
Mm,
so there are a couple of characters that I had trouble with. I was like, man, I mess that up all the time. Why do I keep doing that? Why did I do that in the first place? What was I thinking, right? But I mean, you live with it and you go. They're a great character. I gotta stay with it, right?
yeah, that's it. Once you set it up, I mean, you're
Yeah,
stuck with it.
especially if you put book 1 out, you're like, "Oh, man, well, there's that." Gotta
Yes.
follow that through the rest of the way. Caden,
Uh,
what's up, man?
hello,
Caden's great too.
Caden.
Look at
He
all
is
these
he
break-ins in
also
here.
just had a Kickstarter as well,
Yeah,
so
Caden
huge
killed it.
congrats.
Yeah,
And a release, recent release.
I know, that's right.
That's amazing.
Yesterday or the day before. I can't
Yes.
remember, I just posted it the other day.
I know time is blurring.
I know.
So I'm gonna put it to the chat. If you have any questions, throw them in and we'll take a look. But until we hear from you, because there is a delay, you drew your own maps.
I sure did.
Can
Yeah,
you
you're
talk
right.
about that?
I did. I did draw my own maps. So in Stone and Sky. Some people know that I'm an illustrator as well, and I've done work in comics and other things like that. So I have a background in drawing, and so I drew this really fun, wonderful map and put it in Stone and Sky, and I did it actually mostly for me. I did it
Okay.
because I needed it. And so I actually have the scratch version of it on one of my drawing pads that was garbage. I mean, terrible, so bad. But I did it because I needed a visual cue to go along with this epic fantasy that I was writing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was immensely helpful. And then I was like, let's just make this epic because all the best fantasy books have epic maps in them. So
Yes.
I'm going to go and figure out, we're going to do it. And
That's
so it was
amazing.
actually the first map I ever drew, which is pretty fun. But then I was
Oh,
a genius and I decided, hey, we're going to go across the sea in the next book.
right.
And
You
then I was
have
like,
to do a whole new map.
oh no, I got to draw another map. So now the map looks something like this. I don't know how well we could see
Oh,
it
wow.
there, but we kind of expanded the map from the first book here, got it
Right.
all filled out and fleshed out, and then we got across the sea and we did the map there. So we got to do all sorts of fun things with the map because epic fantasy maps are the best.
And you've been doing artwork for a while,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, years and years. Yeah.
What was different in drawing a map compared to the typical art style you would gravitate towards?
Sure. I love doing pen and ink drawings, and
Mm,
I love doing. Uh, uh, I've done contracts for coloring comics and stuff. So I've done all sorts of different things. I've gotten to do, uh, you know, logos and graphic design stuff. I've gotten to do everything. Right.
yeah.
This, however, was different because, first of all, I kind of got to go flowy and do whatever I wanted. And I was like, cool, this is great. I don't have to worry about perfect lines or whatever because it's a map, right? There are no straight lines in nature, right? So this is great.
Yes.
This is wonderful. But I also drew every single tree by hand. So every forest on the map is drawn with hundreds of trees. I mean, ridiculous amounts of trees. And there, I have never drawn something with so many repetitive motions like that. It was, I mean, mind numbing sometimes. I would sit, my wife would be watching something, sitting on the couch watching something, and I'd be sitting there drawing trees
Oh my
after tree
gosh.
after tree
And
after
you can't
tree
really get
after
lazy
tree.
with that.
You can't. Yeah, it just like you keep going. You just keep going. It was completely different.
Oh my god. I would equate that to my skill level of, artistry, which would be drawing the same stick person over and over again.
Over and over and over, cover the entire piece
Yep.
of paper. Yeah, it was like that.
And they can't be, like, lazy with too long of arms.
It can get crazy, and all these trees are like twice the size of these trees because then that forest looks goofy and this forest doesn't. It was crazy.
Well, I hope you had a good show on in the background. So
Oh, man. I got way better at it. So the second map actually it
okay.
was a lot faster. So
Well, that's good.
I kinda figured out a rhythm and, okay, now I know how. Alright, let's go do this.
That practice makes perfect.
That's right.
So I wanna dive into your covers a little bit.
Sure.
Did you do a cover art for it as well, or did you hire someone for
No,
that?
I hired
Okay.
I hired a painter. So I did the all the typography, so stone and sky and all that stuff, and made it all pretty and did all the things on all around, right? But I hired a painter named Katerina Strokach, who did all the art, right? So all the paintings, and then I just took all the paintings and made it into a book cover with all the other things. Well, thankfully, I have that skill. That was a way that I could kind of cut costs, especially with Stone and Sky, because man, we were bottom of the barrel. I mean, we were
Right.
scraping along
Oh,
investment wise, man. We were not sure we were going to make it.
well, it's hard because it's all coming out of your pocket, right? And you have a limit and you still want that art that you want,
Yeah,
right? You want
yeah.
it to catch the eye. You want it to be something you're proud of. Ah, so yeah, I feel for that. And I would love to know in the process, similar to working with your audiobook narrator, what was that like working with your cover artist? Did you have a clear image of what you wanted for the artwork?
Yes.
And then, okay, brilliant.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. So for me, I have a very clear vision for everything. I mean, I have a vision for the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for the next 5 books that
Wow.
I'll be writing. I have a clear vision for what the covers should look like on every single one of them. So I very, very, very clear. Hey, here's what I'm looking for. This is the basic gist. This is the basic stuff. You get creative. You get to make it. This is just what I'm looking for. So if
Mm,
you can create this, let's roll. Like let's rock and roll, right?
right.
Um, a very, very, very clear communication on exactly what I was looking for all the covers. Yeah, I guess book 3 is also done as well, but I haven't revealed that to anybody yet. But
Ooh.
but I had all the covers done prior to even releasing the first book. So
Oh, wow.
that's
And since you touched on this, I'm gonna
yeah.
bring up this question from Scott. Now that the trilogy is over, what's next? Because you kind of hinted to that there.
Yeah, man. So okay, so in fairness, the third book is in what? We're in round 2 of edits. I go through 3 different editors,
Oh, wow.
and so we're on editor number 2 right now. So that one's it's still in the process, but it's done. Let's be real, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
So here in the next couple weeks, I'll be starting to write my new book, which actually will be a standalone book, and it's going to be a cozy fantasy, actually set in
Ooh.
the world of Stone and Sky. So in the world of Finlestia. So same map, everything, same places, some characters that you know and recognize, but it'll also be a standalone that anybody could pick up and read. Which I'm really excited about. But I think that's book 1 of 4 that I have slated to write this year. And
Oh,
then
wow.
obviously I'm not going to publish all of them this year. I got a publishing schedule for book. Well, look, book 2 hasn't even come out yet, guys. This one goes
I
out
was gonna
like
say, like
this one comes out like a week and a half, right? So like this one comes out in a week and a half. Book 3 comes out in June, and then I'll probably have one slated for September. Uh, and I'm not sure if it's going to be the cozy one yet, or if it's going to be one of the other 3 books that I have slated. I have 3 of them the 3 of them will be self-published. One of them is with a publisher that I just signed a contract with the other day. So uh,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, very excited. That one's
Yeah.
pretty neat. It's kind of gonna bend the genre bounds a little bit,
Ooh.
going back to my horror roots for that one. So that'll be fun. But yes, lots of books lined up, and that's just the 4 that I have to get done this year, writing wise. Uh,
So what you're saying is future Brando Sando, because the next thing we know, you're gonna be popping out manuscripts from under the desk.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, that would be great. I have 4 those are the 4 that I gotta get done this year. That's my plan. And then I've got technically in my schedule, the way that it looks right now,
Mm.
assuming that I can stay on the pace that I've got planned out, that's even a little less crazy than the pace I've been on. I should actually technically have time to almost finish a 5th book this year, but it probably won't get finished this year.
Oh, well, I mean, it's
So
not
let's
like
be
you're writing, what, however many thousands of words.
I mean, these books were 121,000 words.
Okay.
And I say 121 specifically because the first one was like 121,000, like almost
Okay.
on the nose, and then the second one was like 121,000, almost on the nose.
Okay, so you got
And
a trend.
I was like, "How did that happen? Okay, whatever. Like, let's go."
And how long do you think that took you from beginning to end writing those, 121,000?
Yeah, so I got a better gauge now. So Stone and Sky definitely took me longer, because I was kind of writing that while I was still doing all sorts of other things.
Mm,
Um, when I was writing Stone and Tide, it was like, no, no, this is where I'm going. It was about promo Stone and Sky and write Stone and Tide. That was it. And so, Stone and Tide, it actually took me about 3.5 months, maybe almost 4, but it was only about 2 in a couple of weeks, maybe 2.5 months, like active writing.
okay.
Um, and then ooh, I almost slipped. I almost said the name of
Oh.
the third book. That would have been a first. Woo. Okay. If you guys didn't know, the first word's going to be stone.
Just testing yourself.
Yeah, just testing it. Um, we'll reveal that. That's coming, guys. It's soon, soon, soon.
So go follow.
Yeah, that's right. So the third book, it took about 3.5, oh no, 3 months, just about.
Okay,
And but it was about 2 and a week active writing. So
okay.
yeah, so I these big chunkers that are actually they're not even that big compared to some people's books. I mean, look, 121,000 words isn't that bad, but
No.
they're pretty big compared to some of those like 70,000 word books. I'm like, dude, that's like half the size. Man, I can kill that.
No, but it sounds like a good time frame as well, because basically you're finishing a book per quarter,
Right, right,
right?
right. Yeah,
So
and since I get to kind of dabble in different, in a little different space this year,
mm,
I definitely have plans. One of the books I am writing this year is the first book in the next trilogy set in Finlestia. So we're not
right.
done with Finlestia. This was just the first trilogy. There's going to be lots of trilogies. We were going through the plans the other day. My wife was like, "You've got like 10 years worth of books right here," and I was like, I know. I cannot wait. I'm just so excited. Yeah. So we got so many books left in Finlestia, but I wanted to have a lot of different jumping on points for people. So, hey, trilogy
For
here,
sure.
trilogy there, trilogy there. You could start in any trilogy you want, and you'll get fun Easter eggs in all of them. It'll be great.
I
Um,
love it. You never know what a reader is drawn to, right? Give them
hey,
lots
just
of entry points, let them figure it out. Have
yeah,
fun with it.
and if they love you, then they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go check out this next trilogy. I'll go
Yep.
check out." It's wonderful. It's great. It's good
And
problems.
and they'll have plenty of backlog to check out.
That's right. That's the plan.
So we actually have a couple questions here as well.
Oh,
Callum, on a, less risque question, what's your favorite tattoo?
oh man, what's my favorite tattoo on me? Probably I would assume on me, right? No.
I'm
Um I love this whale. This whale is like one of my favorites. Um but all right, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I actually have a couple of Star Trek tattoos, and I actually have an Aquaman tattoo that's hidden in here.
I love
Um,
it.
it's but all of my like I have like hidden tattoos. They're hidden Star Trek tattoos.
Oh, okay.
There's one in this rock here that you probably can't see, but it kind of looks like a certain space station that you probably
Oh,
can't tell.
yeah. I can.
Or
I can see it.
I've got space going all the way up in here, and there may or may not be an Enterprise up in there. Um, I got lots of secret tattoos, and so I think those ones are pretty fun.
I love it. I love that you not only put Easter eggs in your stories, but also your tattoos.
I did, yeah. I don't know. I'm crazy.
I get it. I mean, you want so much from a tattoo. I have tattoos as well. I always cover them because I'm always cold. It's just how I am.
I mean, that's
But
Canada.
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
But, like, one of the, concepts I had is I have a, dragon from my hip down to my knee on one
Yeah,
leg.
cool.
And I wanted it that I'm more a modest person anyway, but I wanted it where if I was wearing a dress, it's just the
Yeah.
tail poking out on the knee,
Yeah, sure.
on the side of the
Just,
knee, right?
just
That's all people
one
see.
little thing, and people are like, "What is that? What
That's
is it?"
right. That's
Yeah,
right. And then they can wonder and I
conversation
can just
starter.
move on with my day.
Yeah, that's right. You'll
Right.
never know.
Exactly. So yeah, I love that you can mix that into the artwork because I my artistic skill, like I said, is not very good. I wouldn't have thought of that.
I can nail myself.
I love it. I love it. And Jim here wants to know, would you consider doing maps for other indie authors?
Jim, that is a great question. After doing the maps for these ones, I actually considered it. I considered, giving it a go and saying, "Hey, sure, yeah, I'll open it up for other indie authors." However, here's what happened when Stone and Sky came out. When Stone and Sky came out, we got inundated, and we have a TikTok shop, which is part of the reason everything went crazy. Um, we got inundated with so many books, like so many books that we were packing ourselves. You see all this? This is stock. 90% of the orange ones right now are sold. We packed 86, 87 of these ones today, getting ready for launch for Stone and Tide. Uh, that comes out February 6th. We were packing them today because we're like, dude, there's so many boxes. We have got to get these ready. And then, and like I said, 90% of those are sold. So we got to pack those tomorrow too. We got so crazy busy with the business side of the book stuff that it was a surprise to us, so surprising that I actually had to turn down a lot of I was doing a lot of graphic design and illustration work on the side still, just to try to make ends meet before the book came out. And then when the book came out, I I had other clients that were like, "Hey, can you do this for us?" And I actually had to turn people away. And so I've actually not done any graphic design work in the last few months because it was just like I can't. I literally just do not have enough time to accomplish all these
Mm.
things. And so, Jim, I would love to, but I just don't have the time to do it. I I would hire you. I I love hearing that, but here's the suggestion what I would give you for now. Um, on my YouTube channel, I've actually done videos about how I drew my map, just how to draw mountains, how to draw borders, what you should do this, how to plan it out a little bit, how to draw trees, and it's actually not as hard as you think. And it has a lot of basic shapes and basic things that I think you could actually accomplish. More people can accomplish than they expect.
Mm.
The hardest part is the drudgery of doing so many trees to make a forest full. But I do give a lot of great tips over there, and give it a try. The worst thing that happens is you give it a try and you draw a mountain range and you draw some trees and stuff, and you're not happy with it. No big deal. Okay, at least you tried, right? Give it a try. It might go better than you think.
Sounds like similar advice that an author would give to a new author. Just try.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just
Just
go for
try.
it. See what
See
happens.
yeah,
Your process is going to be different than mine, right?
that's it. That's it. So I know we're over the hour mark here. Are you okay with a couple more
Sure.
questions?
Yeah. Totally.
Brilliant. So you mentioned something that I wanted to
Uh-oh.
talk about. I don't have it in my notes, but I
Putting my
remembered.
foot in my mouth. Here we go.
No, no. The you're good. You're
What
good.
did I do?
No, I wanted to ask you, what is your, because we talked about all these social media platforms, TikTok.
Sure. Yeah.
Did you have a strategy for this? How did you get it to be where it's at? What what let you get to the stage that you're at in terms of creating for those various platforms? Because that's tricky. Every platform has a
Yeah.
different audience.
Yeah, it's a different vibe on every single platform, and you gotta know what the vibe is. And so in order to know what the vibe is, you gotta do research. Um, so I actually had almost virtually no social media presence February last year.
Right.
Um, so February last year is when I really took it seriously and decided, okay, I have to have it. There's got to be a place for me to cast the net
Mm.
out to reach new people to bring them to me so I can actually engage them, because you can't engage somebody who's way over here that you never like you don't
Yeah.
cross paths, you can't engage them. So there had to be a place where I could cast a wide net and hopefully bring them in so I could engage them. I kept hearing about book talk, book talk, book talk, book talk, book talk,
Yes.
book talk. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to figure out book talk. My all of my social media accounts were essentially dead, by the way, in February of last year. Uh, so February of last year, I decided, okay, we're going to take this seriously. I've got to, I had what, 49 people in my newsletter, because it was like I had family and friends that I begged and they didn't even read the emails anyways, right?
Oh,
So like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is
yeah.
like, it's garbage. It's important. So I got to get people who can come and be a part of it, right? And so I was like, the gathering happens in social media. That's where it happens. That's where
Yeah.
people are, and that's where you can gather them to you. Then you've got to have a place where you can bring them to, and that's your website, right? And then you got to have a place where you can actively engage them, even if the algorithms don't like you very much. That's your newsletter, right? So that's your three pillars, right? The
Mm.
place where you gather, where you throw the net, the place where you bring them all together, your website, and the place where you can continue to engage them, your newsletter, right? Those are your three
Mm.
pillars. All strategy. This is all just pure strategy, right? So going into TikTok, I was like, okay, here it is. I, I got to do this because I quit my job. I'm doing all this freelance stuff on the side, but it's not enough. Like, it's not going to make ends meet.
Yeah.
I'm throwing all of this money into this book stuff. Like, I got to do this. Otherwise, I'm not going to have, like, I got to build an audience for these books before they even come out. So February, I made a TikTok account and I did weeks of research. I didn't before posting. I didn't post anything for
Yeah.
weeks on my TikTok account. Instead, what I did was I trained the algorithm. I did search after search after search after search,
Mm.
searching classic style fantasy, searching epic fantasy adventures, searching fantasy readers, searching fantasy book talk. So, and what did that do? Well, it trained the algorithm to know that's what my account was about, right?
Mm.
And then I was also engaging in other people, other authors and other book talkers that were doing and talking about things that I wanted to talk about, things that surrounded what I was doing, what I was bringing, even though I wasn't going to talk about this yet.
Mm.
And so I ended up creating this vibe and this kind of culture around myself with all these different people. And then when I finally went to post, TikTok algorithm already knew who I was. They already knew what I was about. They already knew this guy's about fantasy book talkish things, right? So I made
Mm.
the dumbest video ever. It was like, hey, like it was a voiceover from Jennifer Lawrence saying something like, hey, oh, what do I do? Like something like that, right? And it was
Yeah.
just me like, hey, what do I do? And it just said like something, I think it said something to the effect of, when you're new to book talk and you're looking for your new fantasy book besties, right?
Right.
And I ended up getting like 1,000 followers overnight,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
able to get the link on the profile, which was perfect because that's where I could send people to actually join my newsletter. But I wasn't
Yes.
telling them to go join my newsletter. I was telling them, hey, I've got 7 free fantasy stories about characters that you'll meet in my upcoming series that you can totally meet for free. Like, you could go and get them in my bio right now. Okay, great. That's wonderful. And people fell in love with these characters and the stories. And it was all about what was happening right before you meet them in Stone and Sky. And so people loved that and they had an absolute blast with that. And it worked wonders, right?
Yeah.
But the thing was, I wasn't just posting about my book, right? I I actually didn't even really start posting about my books until like like really close to the summer
Okay.
of last year. So I spent months just posting about book talk things and fantasy bookish things and classic style fantasies. Let me show you the Lord of the Rings, or let me show
Yeah.
you the Hobbit edition that I've got, or let's talk about this book. Hey, let's talk about Dragonlance. Hey, let's talk about, the Legend of Drizzt. Which fantasy book do you like better, this one or this one? But all sorts of fantasy bookish content that gathered the like-minded people before I
Mm.
even started telling them about the book. So
So I have a follow-up question for you then, because video format and timing is very important as well.
very important.
So, in terms of the content that you're producing, with those shorts, I'll call them because YouTube,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
Those little shorts videos, what's your ideal length of time for the one of those videos?
Yeah, so it kinda changes, and you gotta experiment because some people will get super into the analytics, like, "Oh, you gotta have 17.2-second video, and it's gotta be, ridiculous." Don't even
Yeah.
bother. A fun video is a fun video, period. It's plain and simple. The fact of the matter is you really only want people to watch for at least. And if you can get them to watch for 3 seconds or longer, guess what? TikTok's actually gonna push it out to more people, period. That's how it works. And so, really, it's a matter of capturing them and hooking them in the first 3 seconds, which is why
Mm.
if you go back and look at any of my videos, there is almost 90 something percent of the time, there is a cut in the video within the first 3 seconds. Usually, it's around that 2-second mark. Why
Yeah.
do I do that? Because it sets up the expectation for the viewer that, no, there's gonna be cuts along the way, and we're gonna be cruising along. They're not gonna sit there waiting for me to go, "Well, hey, so let me talk about." No, I cut all that stuff out. I
Yeah.
do that while I'm making the video because I'm a dork and I forget what I'm gonna say sometimes. But no, I cut all that stuff out, and
Uh,
sometimes I'll even, like, cut some of the goofiness and throw it in as, like, a little blooper thing right in the middle of the video because it's funny and it's goofy and
yep.
people appreciate that you're human, but they also appreciate that you got a pace and you go, right?
Yep.
And so there is no, if somebody tells you there is a perfect length for a TikTok or a video, they're wrong. That is not true. You just need to get people to watch for longer than 3 seconds.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you also do that in terms of the 2 to 3-second clips because I do that for a lot of the book mail,
Totally.
and the only part where I will extend that is when I'm going over the maps because 'cause they're beautiful and you want
Yeah,
to
so
see those
glorious.
maps
Yeah,
and
yeah, totally.
those illustrations and stuff, so I appreciate that you do that as well, and it very much goes to the concept of, there's a lot of discussion around people's attention spans getting
Totally, right.
shorter and
Mhm.
shorter, and time time is still a very huge commodity, even when you're
Totally.
doom scrolling.
Totally. Well, and that's why TikTok has a feature now where you can hold on the left side of the screen and it'll speed up the video and you can watch it in
Oh my
faster
gosh.
time. Yeah. I mean, that's how it is. That people
Yeah.
consume it so fast and then they're like, "Okay, I'm ready." But that's the thing, you want them to watch at least for a little bit. And so now that I'm at a certain level with TikTok, I don't remember at what point it's I don't remember at what point, like, follower count or whatever it was, that eventually I got moved into a different category where I'm a content creator that can now, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Um, 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 it's a program that they have for content creators where if you have videos that are longer than a minute and you get a certain amount of watches for it and you get a certain amount of watch time, TikTok
Mm,
will actually like pay you, like they'll give you money for it. So that longer content, that 1 minute to 3 minutes to 7 minute video content is actually starting to happen. Like it's there. So even if you le let me clarify, because you can have a 7-minute video, but if you're doing this and then but Also, we want it you get what I'm saying. If we have these
Yep,
long pauses in there, people will not watch it. They can't stand it. They're
no,
like, "Get to the point, bro. Like, talk. Get it
yep,
out of your mouth." And so you have to cut those things out. I cut breaths out in between words in
yep,
the same sentence even. You know, it'll be, w I'm talking about this one thing, and I'm talking about and I'll cut that breath out in between
yep,
and that other word. I it's people like the faster pace, right? That's
they
weird.
do.
So you
And
can have a 7-minute video as long as your pace is good, as long as you're cruising along, bro.
well, and it's interesting you bring that up because I've noticed that with the analytics on my YouTube channel as well.
Sure.
In my videos, in general, I feel like I'm talking fast, but when I play it back and I edit, I'm pretty slow. I'm pretty
Right.
slow.
You have a easy keel
Yeah,
pace, right, you know?
but I notice in the watch time that the watch time is usually half of the length of the video, which means people are watching it at 2 times or close to 2 times speed.
Right.
And it's I mean, I can't really talk I've tried. I've been like, and I sound stupid.
I
I
know.
just I
I
gave
get it.
up. So, it's interesting because even that will impact a viewer,
Totally.
and in return, impacts your analytics, what TikTok or YouTube deems worthy off your
Yeah.
channel. It's really interesting to see how it's different for everyone.
Totally, right.
And we have
It's
a
really
a
about creating a vibe, right? Like, you're creating a vibe around your content that people come
Mhm.
to expect from you, and that's why they will come back. If they know that you're a really nice guy and you have fun and you laugh and you joke and you even laugh at yourself, then they're like, "Okay, that's my vibe. That's the one I wanna be around." If they know that you're all about the mysterious, grimdark kind of stuff, and that's what they're into, then that's what they're gonna come back to. You gotta have your vibe. You gotta if you put out a vibe that people, get,
Mm,
they'll jump on board.
absolutely. And, we have a couple questions, so we'll finish off with those. Scott here says, "What do you use to edit the videos?"
Yeah, Scott. So I do. I actually edit all my videos. So any upright video, so any video for the phone, every video for the phone, I edit in TikTok. Actually,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just use their editing features. Super easy. You can sit there on the
Mm,
couch and just put it
nice.
together, and then actually you can download it before you post it, so it won't have the watermark. Now I've given that advice before, but I found out this a couple of weekends ago at a convention that um, some author ladies over there, they didn't have that feature, and I don't know if maybe it's because I passed a certain threshold or whatever, and so
Oh, I see.
I may actually get features before other people do. I'm not sure about that. But there are ways for you to download it after anyways, after you
Yes.
post it. And then you can repurpose that content onto other places, which is absolutely the way to do it.
Yes, I
For
agree.
anything landscape, for doing when I'm doing educational videos or anything like that, I do all of those in hit film actually, and that's all on the computer. So
Okay. Alright. And, Matt here would like to know in a 60-second long video, how much actual time do you spend editing?
Well, it depends on how bad my takes are. So so if it's a 60-second long video, it depends on how many uhs or did I forget what I was supposed to say or whatever. Um, Most of the time you could once you get the hang of the TikTok video, like, editing software, man, you can cruise. Like, you can really
Right.
cruise. It takes a little while to get used to because you're doing it on your phone, right? And especially,
Mhm.
Matt's fantasy book reviews. I assume you look like you have your own channel, which
He
means you do
does.
yeah, you do editing for videos like this all the time in a software on your computer. It takes a second for you to really get the hang of the TikTok one. But man, once you get the hang of it, dude, I mean, you're flying on some of these
Mhm.
videos. You go cut, move, and keep going. you can get pretty fast at it. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll agree with that because for my shorts on YouTube, I use CapCut.
Yeah, right.
And it's super simple, has lots
Yeah,
of options even in the free version, and you
totally.
go pretty quick once you've got your rhythm and your style.
Yeah, once it's getting the style and the vibe, once you get that down, you're gonna cruise.
And that's gonna change over time
Yeah, oh,
too,
yeah,
because 'cause you're gonna
absolutely.
learn, you're gonna grow, you're gonna figure out what works, what doesn't.
You
So,
you're gonna post some videos and you're gonna be like, "Oh, man, that one didn't even hit 1,000 views. Ah, that stinks. Okay, moving on." You
yep.
know? Yeah. "Okay, that one doesn't work. Don't do that again." Okay, you learn.
Yeah, that's it. That's big part of it. So, I mean, thank you so much for
Yeah,
stopping in, for chatting, going through all these topics. We went through so many things. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much as well for joining us. All your fantastic questions.
a lot of
If
good questions.
if you are not already following Zach, go follow. All the links are in the description. Go check out the TikToks. This is grandma saying, go check out the TikToks. And, be sure to check out his books as well and the Kickstarter because that's still going.
Yeah, yeah, totally live still. I can I when I realized that we funded in 9 hours and then I realized, "Oh, we still have, like, 2 3 weeks of this." I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I didn't expect that. Alright, I thought I might need all that time. I don't know what we're gonna do now, so come
Better
join us.
move
We're
quick.
we're having fun and we're figuring it out together." So
That's it. Everything is a learning curve when you're
totally.
starting out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're doing something for the first time, you get those nerves and you're like, "It's the new thing nerves," and you go, "Oh, well, hopefully we'll see how it goes." And then you learn from it anyways, right? Whether it goes great or whether it goes terrible, you learn from it and you go, "Okay, well, let's fix it for next time."
That's it. I love it. And on that note, we will say thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and take care of yourselves.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Anytime.